Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here at the Rosa Stringworks Workshop. It looks like we're live. I always doubt myself because this technology it always just tries to do something to mess you up. Just 30 minutes ago, the mic wouldn't work again, but I plugged it into a different port and started up the computer again, and it started working. So I'm just hoping you can hear me and everything's going okay. I'm starting to see a few people pop in there now, so I know it's good. Okay. Well, at the last minute, I decided that I would change what I had planned to do. I was just going to make this all questions and answers. And then at the last minute, I decided that I would do a little bit of a lead playing demo, and with a lot of caveats. I have never, ever, really never have considered myself to be much of a mandolin player. I do what I do. Some people think it's amazing, and other people just think it's not very good, and that's okay. My wife happens to be one of those, by the way, who doesn't think it's very good at all. I can count the compliments she's given me on music on 2 or 3 fingers, let alone one hand. And that's in, almost 50 years of marriage. 44 years, I guess. I don't know. Now I got myself in trouble because I don't remember. Anyway, we're going to get into that a little bit today and talk about my method. And I call it my method because I do feel like it's my method. I don't think anybody else plays the way I play. There'll be a few people say, yeah, I kind of do that too. But I don't think no one really does it to the extent that I do it. And I really think I've found that out when I went to Nashville, and all those other mandolin players were there, and they were so interested in how I was playing the mandolin because it was totally different than what they do. I'm going to try to demonstrate a little bit about how your average mandolin player plays, and then show you the comparison of how I play. I can't really do the other method. I mean, the normal method I can't do. It's my own method, and I figured it out because of what my uncle said. And if you can remember that, some of you I know have already heard this, but my uncle said he saw me playing after I'd only been playing about a month, and I had a little cheap dime store mandolin basically. And I say dime store, I think I bought it at Kmart. It was $50. Anyway, he heard me playing, and I had just started playing, and he says, son, I didn't know you played mandolin. How long you been playing that mandolin? And I said, well, I've been playing it about a month now. And he goes, well, I'll tell you what, for a month, you're doing really good. He says, I don't think I've ever heard anybody do any better in a month. He says, but I got to tell you, he says, you sound wimpy, I can't hear you, and you got to learn how to play double notes. He pretty much always told it like it was. You sound wimpy, I can't hear you, and you got to learn how to play double notes. And then he walks off, and he didn't say any more. And of course, I'm a brand new newbie to this thing. I was about 29 years old at the time, 28 years old, somewhere in there. And I just took him at his word. And I thought, well, double notes? Single notes is hard enough. So I tucked my tail, hid out for like a whole year, wouldn't play in front of anybody for a whole year because I didn't want to sound wimpy, and I wanted you to be able to hear me, and I had to figure out how to play double notes. So that's what you're about to see here, is how I taught myself to do what I do. And it might help some of you, and at the very worst case, it's just another tool you can put in your toolbox. I think you'll find that if you can get over the hump, my method's probably the easiest method there is to play, because it's all the common sense thing. You know how I always go back to common sense. My whole method is on common sense. It's not difficult at all. It's just anybody can figure my method out if you sit down and try. It's not difficult, really. I say that in one vein. Let me back up and say it this way. It's not difficult to understand and comprehend. It might be difficult to apply. So there's a difference. It's easy to understand and comprehend what I'm doing. It really is. It's probably way easier than anything else that you'll learn in music. But it's a little difficult to apply because of what I'm doing. It's a little difficult to do the left hand. But the thought of it and the understanding of it should be very simple for you. And we'll get into that in just a minute. So before we jump right in the middle of that, I just thought I'd give you an update or another progress report on my farm project that I've been doing. And again, it's kind of like my secret project that you all know about since you all tune in here. We've almost got 100 viewers already. Woohoo! So here it is. There it is, basically completed. And I say basically completed. I still want to insulate the inside of it. I do have a little heater in there now, a little portable propane type heater. I want to insulate under the floor there, and that metal roof. I definitely want to insulate up against that metal roof. It's very cold. But you can see the windows are in it now, and from the base of the floor there to the ground, it's exactly 15 feet. I don't know if you can tell, I mean, from this picture, you can't really tell how high we are here, but this is at one of the highest points on the farm. If you can look through those trees in the background, you see that dark, kind of a gray line through the middle of the legs there, that darker line through the middle of the legs. That's a tree line way back about a mile away. So that'll give you some idea that we're way up high, and that's like a mile away, and the high hills like a mile away. So you can really see a long ways from up in this stand. But anyway, I just thought I'd show you that to show you that I did basically get her finished. And every single piece of wood on that, every single piece was cut on my sawmill. I didn't buy a single board anywhere for that. And it was all cut out of cedar mostly. Okay, well, enough of that. I really like to talk about my method of playing and all that, but on the other hand, it's kind of weird. It's kind of unique, so it's kind of hard to explain to. I was trying to actually make a lead playing demonstration video. And it's difficult. It's more difficult than like my mandolin training that I already have out there that explains the Nashville number system and how to chord the mandolin. That was easy for me to explain because it's very logical. It's black and white. It's very straightforward. When you start playing lead, it's not quite black and white and straightforward. There's a lot more to it. Though I still think it will make sense to you, and I think it'll be kind of a common sense thing. So let's get to it. I'm going to turn the camera down so you can really watch this. By the way, I'm using this mandolin because it only has dots, and it'll be easier for you to tell where my fingers are in position-wise. And that dot there is 3, and that's 5, and that's 7, just so you kind of know. And I also did you a big favor because you're going to see this here in a moment, I'm going to call this, now it looks like I'm going to be giving you the finger, and I don't mean to, so I'll do it this way. But you see the middle finger there? Well, I even blackened it so you can I blackened it with a hammer so you could tell that that's my chord finger. So that is the most important finger in my method, by the way, is that middle finger. That's your chord finger. So you can tell where my chord finger is all the time because it's got a black mark on it for you. Oh, people, we have more fun than anybody. All right, so I'm going to turn this down here, and I'm going to try to get close. All right. The first thing, like if you've gone through my training, or if you already know how to play mandolin, well, then you know your chords. Well, now I use the full chord, the full 4-fingered chord, at least when I'm on the bottom set of strings. When I'm on the G, the A, the B, the C, and these chords down through the bottom, I use all 4 fingers. When I use the chords, what I call through the middle, the C, the D, the E, and the F, I only use the 3 fingers. Now, the full way to make that chord would be like this. But I just don't do it that way. I keep everything in this same shape when I play. And I do that with my lead playing as well. So everything stays in this shape, and it makes it easy for me. That's why I do what I do. It's not that I don't know about this. It's just that I don't do it. That's all. But anyway, Now, just a very, very brief amount of priming here. I think I need to show for those folks that don't know anything about this. The cool thing about playing the mandolin is if you use my method and the Nashville number system, everything is in the same relative place no matter what key you're in. And what I mean by that is, you know how we have the 1-4-5 chord? Well, here's G right here where I'm starting. This is G. So there's G, C, D. Okay? 1, 4, 5. It's 1, 4 is right above it, and then 5 is 2 down. See? 1, 4, 5. Okay, now no matter where I start on the fretboard, as long as I'm starting on these bottom 2 strings with these 2 fingers, like there's A, there's 1, 4, 5. See how it's in the same relative place? 1, 4, 5. 4 is right above it, 5 is right 2 down. So if I start down here in B, 1, 4, 5. So the moment you tell me the chord that your song is in, especially if it's G, A, or B in this case, in my example, well, I know where all the other chords are because I already, know my numbers and use the Nashville number system to think about this. So 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. No matter where I start. If I start down here, 1, 4, 5. It works no matter where I'm at. Now, there's 2 patterns. So if I'm starting up in D or C, then it's different. I'm going to use D as my example. So D is different. It's backwards of that. It's 1, 4, and then 5 is below it. So 1, 4, 5. Now if I'm in E, 1, 4, 5. So if I'm in F, 1, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. It's in the same relative place. It's the same number of frets over and down in the same relative place. So I just wanted to show you that briefly. That's all covered in super detail in my Nashville number system mandolin training, and you'll learn all about that. And it shows you where all the chords are, 1 through 7. You'll know where all of them are and all your minors and all your sevenths and all that. That's only important because I felt like I need to give you a little bit of that background because I'm going to show you how I play using that information. I don't play what I call off the nut or anchoring your finger. It depends on how. I'm just going to be honest and tell you, I don't know enough about the regular traditional way to play a mandolin to talk intelligently about it for 30 minutes. I don't know enough about it. I'm just being honest. But I can show you a little bit about that just as a comparison for those of you who don't know anything about it. For instance, if I'm going to play a song in the key of B, here's my little kickoff. Now this is the traditional, normal way of playing a mandolin, I guess you'd say, or at least it's closer to it. Let me just say it that way because I have to give a caveat there that I'm not even sure I'm doing this 100% the traditional way. But if I'm going to play in B, I would anchor this finger here. And I call it playing off of the nut because I'm playing scales off of the nut up here. So I would anchor here for B because this is the A string. So you got A sharp and then B. So there's B. So we're gonna play in the key of B, but I'm going to anchor this finger here and play the intro. So here we go. As I sit here alone with my memories. So in other words, I kicked it off in B up here, kind of the traditional way by anchoring this finger on the B note. And then I'm playing scales. That's as close as I can get to the traditional way of playing. Whether that's a very good example or not, I don't know, but that's as close as I can get to it. Now I'm going to show you how I play the mandolin pretty much on every song except for just a select few. Like that one right there is one of the very few that I do it a different way. But most of them I play in a different way, and I play out of chord positions. And because I know where all my chords are, I just move my hand to where that chord is, and then I play out of that chord. And again, this finger is what I call my chord finger, because if you think about it, this is your E string, but if you go, that would be F, that would be F sharp, and this is G. And so we're playing out of the G chord. That's my G note right there. So this finger is always on the chord note. Now, the way I play lead, like let's just take us an instrumental song called Sled Ride. And the way I play it, you got to remember what my uncle said. He said you got to learn how to play double notes. Well, I couldn't figure out how to play double notes unless I was in my chords. Now, if you notice, you've already got 2 notes there. Those are double notes. This is a double note. And then if you put that 4th finger up here, you can get double notes with that 4th finger a lot. And that's why I use my little finger a lot. I don't do it. It's not the norm for most people. The way most mandolin players play, they don't use this to play lead much. I do it all the time because of the double note issue. All right, so here's how I would play Sled Ride. And I'm going to try to do it, well, let me just play it at the normal speed and then I'll slow it down, okay? So that gives you some idea. So what am I actually doing? All right, I'm in G, so I'm playing out of G. G, 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 G7, C, C, G, A minor, D, G, A minor, D, G, C, G, all right, so I'm hitting these. Here's what I'm actually doing. There's certain little things I've learned over the years that I can run into chords. So I just kind of lead into it like that. There's your 7th, and then you go right to your C. That's your 4 chord. So I'm always playing harmony to myself. That's what makes it unique compared to most other mandolin players. Almost everything I play has 2 notes going on. I'm not saying I never hit a single note. I do hit single notes. But I mostly play double notes. Anytime you need a 7th, you just take this finger off, put that finger, and just jump this finger over this string. So you just jump it up to the 3rd string, see? You skip a string, jump up there, there's your 7th. So like if you're in G, you need G7th, and then again that becomes a double noted string, see? So there's your G7th. Anytime you need a minor, like A minor in that song, here's your A, but you just slide that finger back 1 fret, and now you got A minor. There's your A minor, see? So, and then again, that minor becomes your double notes, because you can go here to here. And so when I get to that minor part, that's what I'm doing, is I'm just sliding that finger back, keeping this finger in the A chord position, and I just hit these 2 notes. So watch that part again. the C. Now here comes the A minor. A minor, D, G, A minor, G, G. So in other words, my whole process is just moving the chords around and playing notes out of those chords. What's cool about it, it seems like it would be really, really super complicated, and it really is at first glance. But the thing about that you don't understand is all those double notes, because they're inside that chord, they apply no matter where you are. So no matter what key I'm playing it in, I can do the exact same thing. I never have to worry about changing anything. And it doesn't really even matter what the song is. Those double notes work within that chord on any song. It's just in kind of the order of the right hand of how you pick it. Like, I don't know. That one's a little bit different. That's probably not a good example. Let me think. I don't play that many lead songs, to be honest. I mostly play, songs with lyrics. We mostly do vocals. So like Blue Ridge Mountain Home, that's a very, very simple one that should be fairly straightforward. Let's just try that. So all it has is a 1-4-5. So it's 1-4-5, 1-4-5. It never changes through the whole song. There's a well-beaten path on this old mountainside where I wandered when I was a lad. And I wandered alone to the place I call home in those Blue Ridge hills far away. Now I'm going to pick it. Now, does it sound exactly like the song? Not exactly, but it gets it follows. So in other words, if you didn't know the song at all, and it was your first time you ever heard it, as long as you know how the chords go through that song, and you know some of those double notes and things, you can pick along and follow the song, and it'll sound like you know what you're doing, even though you're not doing the perfect lead to the song. So in other words, I just playing the chords and playing notes in those chords all the way through. That's how I think of it. I don't think of it as scales. I don't think about anything like that that's formal music whatsoever. It is just totally common sense playing some of the notes in that chord as I move through the song. That's really all there is to it, and nothing more to it than that. I don't even know how to explain it any different or better. I wish I could. All right, now let me show you one of the huge advantages to this. If you're like me, you'll spend, especially when you were new at this, and you go to a jam session, and you've been practicing for a month now, because you're going to go to this jam session, and you're going to play this cool lead song you've learned, and you're going to, show these people what you know. And so you get there and you say, I want to play Sled Ride, and they'll say, okay, what key? And you say, I'll play it in G, and they go, oh, we don't play that in G. We play that in whatever key. It doesn't matter. Whatever song you practice, I guarantee you they're going to play it in a different key. That's just the way it works. And so you get there and you go, ah. So you've been practicing it in G, and everybody else plays it in A or whatever. All right, well, like, for instance, let's just pretend that they said, we don't play Sled Ride in G. We play that in, now, by the way, most people play Sled Ride in A, okay? Just so you know. But I just played it in G as a simple example there. But let's just say let's just switch that up, and let's say they say that we play that in B flat. Okay, well you go, oh man. So all I have to do is move down to where B flat is. See, there's A sharp or B flat, and there's B. So right there's where I'm playing it. I'm playing it in B flat. So I can play my exact same thing I played up here when I played Sled Ride. I can play it right here. Watch. In other words, if you're going by numbers, the numbers are the exact same down here as they were up here. So like you got 1, 1, 1/7, 4. We're back to 1. Now we're going to a 2 minor, 5. 2 minor, 5. Now if I go down here to that B flat again, we got 1. There's 1/7, and then we go to 4. Back to 1. Now 2 minor, 5, 1, 2 minor, 5. Okay. All right. I don't know if that is more confusing, less confusing, if it makes any sense at all to any of you. But the point is, once you understand thoroughly the Nashville number system, and it's like learning another language, but it's a simple language, actually. It's very simple, very straightforward. It makes music make sense. It really does. Once you learn the Nashville number system and you're using my method, you can go anywhere on the neck and play the same song any place on the neck. It's just that simple. So that's one huge advantage to learning the way I taught myself. Nobody could throw me a curve by saying, well, we're going to play that in XYZ key. It doesn't matter. I can play it in any key. If I can play it in one key, I can play it in any other key. That's the advantage of learning it the way I played it, because everything is relative from where you start. That's my whole theory on music, period. Everything is relative from where you start, the way I do it. It's not that way if you're playing anchored off of that nut type of playing in scales. It's not, it's very similar, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of similarities, and there may even be more similarities than there are differences. In some ways, I could believe that. But it's a different way of thinking about it, and to me, it's a super common sense way of thinking about it, because all I have to do to play a song, to play the lead through any song, you can throw the hardest song at me. And matter of fact, the songs with more chords are easier to play lead to than the songs with fewer chords. And I promise you that's true with my method. I'm not kidding. It's 100% true, because you're changing chords more often and you're hitting more notes, and it just sounds like you're playing the exact same song. It really does sound like you're playing lead to the song with the more chords. The fewer chords, like 2-chord songs, are actually harder to play with my method than, say, a 5-chord song. And that's true. It really is true. Because you have to find more fill and more things to do with when you only have 2 chords. I hope that makes sense to you, because it really is true. I'm going to look at the comments to see if I'm just blowing everybody away like, oh, you're an idiot. Bill West, you're so good to us. Well, Bill, I'm really glad to hear about your daughter, Bill. Really super glad. Hitting your finger with a hammer just to help us out. Yeah, I did. I promise you, I did that just so you could tell which was my chord finger. Good. Let's see here. Question. I have a $3,000 good sounding 100-year-old fiddle. My teacher thinks the E string is being muted by the current setup. Could it need a new nut or new fingerboard? The current one is slim. Well, if the E string is sounding muted, it could be a couple of things. It could be the actual string itself. It could be the nut, that it's maybe not, like the very, it's really hard to explain this and how important it is. But the very last place that string touches that nut should be the place it touches it. In other words, it shouldn't be touching it here in the middle and not touching it out here on this front edge, or this very edge. That's the edge, is the last place that string should touch that nut, and it should touch it right on the edge. And the reason for that is then that leaves the whole string to vibrate, where if it's touching it in the middle, it's going to be vibrating here in the middle of your nut, and that's going to dampen the tone. It's going to kill some of your tone. So that's a possibility. The other place where that same thing could happen, though on a violin it's very, very, very rare, would be right on your bridge. It could actually happen on your bridge. And on a guitar, that would be your saddle. And of course, your guitar saddle's wider than the bridge is on a violin. That's why it's almost impossible for it to happen on the violin bridge. But what can happen on the violin bridge, and especially on the E string, well, it could be a couple of things. It can actually bite into the bridge quite a bit if you don't have a little protector on it, and that little protector itself can be the very thing that causes the dampening of tone. In other words, if that little protector, it's a string, it's just a wrap that goes around the string to keep it from cutting through the bridge. And if that little wrap is sticking out in front of your bridge, it can deaden your string too. It should only be, as far as you should use it, it should dead end right at the front edge of your bridge. It shouldn't go past the front edge of your bridge. That little strengthening, the little wrap that goes around there. I can't even think of what you call it. But anyway, that thing that goes around your E string on a violin should not extend past the front of your bridge. Those are the things that I would look at to see. It could actually be the string itself. But anyway, I would check those things. Good luck to you on that. Playing notes out of the chord, that is the key. That is the key. And yeah, he's playing on words, I think, there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it was the only way, after sitting out there practicing by myself, like I said, hiding out, trying to learn how to play double notes. It was the only way I could figure out how to play double notes. And it became very consistent that I could play the same double notes because my position is always the same. No matter where I move my hand, all the double notes are the same. So I only had to learn the double notes one time. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a little complicated. But once you learn it, you got it. And you got it anywhere. So it's pretty cool once you get it, That's why I say it's a simple concept to understand. It's a little difficult to apply. But if you spend a little time applying it, it works really good. Okay. Oh my goodness. I still have a bad cough. Hey Jerry, very glad to see you healthy, and I do have a question. Could you explain the number system for guitar just briefly? Well, yeah, the number system works basically the same on the guitar. The difference is that here's the key difference is that every chord on the guitar is a different shape. On the mandolin, because of the way I do it, I made sure that I didn't change the shape on my chord. My chord is the same shape no matter where I go. Okay, that's the key difference between the mandolin and the guitar. So when I teach the Nashville number system on the guitar, and by the way, I do have the training out there for that, I basically say you should learn how to do it in one chord first. In other words, just like pick G. Now, if you take G and then you move your capo up and down the neck, and you always stay in G, then your 1-4-5 is always in the same place. So it's the same as the mandolin then, in that regard, as long as you're using a capo and only playing in the key of G. Then once you get it down in G, then you could change to C, and you learn C, and then you move your capo up and down, and so your 1-4-5 will always be in the same place while you're in the position, or not the key of C, but the position of C, if that makes sense. And again, I'm not the best at explaining technical musical terms because I've never had any formal training at all. All right, so anyway, my point is on the guitar, so the guitar works exactly the same. It's just that it has a different shape to every chord, so you kind of have to learn the Nashville number system kind of in every chord. Now, one way you can get around that is if you use bar chords that are always the same shape. And if you use bar chords that are always the same shape, then you're basically doing the same thing I'm doing here on the mandolin. You know, then you could get away with it and only learn it one time, you know. But on the guitar, you kind of have to learn the Nashville number system for every chord. And that's why I say pick your 1 or 2 chords that you really like to use and learn the Nashville number system in those 2 chords or whatever, and then expand it to your 3rd chord and 4th chord and go on. But, you know, it's a little more complicated on the guitar, I will admit. But it still makes music make sense, and if you learn it, you won't regret learning it. Let's see. I saw a Gretchen parlor guitar made with boxwood recently, modern build out of style like a pre-war model. Do you know what the originals were made from? I guess not boxwood. Yeah, you're over my head on that one, Bill. I'm sorry. If I knew anything about that subject, I'd talk to you about it, but I just don't. So I'm going to pass on that one, unfortunately. Sorry. George French says, good explanation. This approach applies to guitar and ukes as well, as long as open strings are avoided. Yes, see, I don't play open strings. You're right. I don't play open strings, or not very much. Occasionally I'll hit an open string, but it's rare, really. I just don't do it. Jesse's asking, are you going to go back to Mountain View in the spring? And I'm sure, Jesse, we will. It'll probably be late spring, early summer, but we'll be back probably in the May or June time frame, somewhere in there. Why don't I own a CNC milling machine? I don't know. I don't own a space shuttle either, so I guess that's the same reason. Hello, Mr. Rosa. I am fixing my broken headstock on my own, but I don't have any mechanical tools, only manual. Can I carve the slots for the 2 little pieces of wood on the back of the neck? Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know what you're talking about there, I guess. Maybe you're talking about a classical, I guess? I'm not sure. 2 slots. I don't know. Sorry, I can't answer that one either because I just don't get it. And I'm a poor reader, so a lot of times you make sense and I just read it wrong and I don't understand it. I'm really a poor reader. I'm not just using that as an excuse. It's been that way my whole life. I've never been diagnosed, but I bet I have some form of like dyslexia or whatever it is. Dyslexia. Dyslexia is probably what I have. Did you know that chords on mandolin is upside down on a guitar? Never thought about it much, but I guess it's similar. Yeah, I guess I understand what you're saying. Chipwood, I have misplaced the written instructions from your mandolin course, but still have the DVD. Any way to get another copy of the written part? I think it's on the DVD, Chip. I'm pretty sure it is. 99% sure it is. Could you be related to Stradivarius? Possible, I guess. My relatives come from Genoa. You know, now you ask that, and another thing I was really into and for a long time and still am interested in is genealogy. I've got nearly 3,000 people in my family tree that I've collected over the years. And I have not got these guys in my family tree, I just want to be clear. They're not in my family tree. But in crazy intriguing, I went to the, I told some of you before, you've probably heard me say that I used to go to the library and read everything I could find on Stradivari and, all the different old makers, Amati and Guarneri and all those guys, Anyway, I found two men by the name of Rosa back in I think it was 1700s, I think. And they were from Italy, and guess what they built? Mandolins. It was a father and son. I can't remember their first names now. I want to say like Antonio, or, well, that's probably Stradivari, but it seemed like one of them was like that. I don't know. But anyway, I can't remember their names right now, their first names. But I have not been able to tie them into my family tree. But wouldn't that be cool if I could find these two guys from the 1700s that built mandolins? That would just be amazing. Their last name was Rosa, R-O-S-A. Crazy, just nuts. Let's see. Have you upgraded your lighting? Much better light today. No, nothing's changed in here. We all know that you are a master builder of mandolins. Have you ever built a violin? Yeah, I've built several, about a half a dozen or so, and I have, I hate to brag on my own stuff, but I tell you what, the last couple of violins I've built, I'd put them up against anybody's violins. I don't care how good they are. I'd put them up against anybody. They really are that good. They sound wonderful. The first couple are, all of them sound real good. None of them sound bad at all. The first couple were pretty darn good, but the last couple, wow, they were just killer. So, the worst one is, I would say, well above average. So I have built, about 6 or so violins. Since Paduk is so resonant, why wouldn't it work for a guitar top? Not for the top, because it's a hardwood. It just doesn't have the vibration, it does. It would sound okay in a way, but it would be harsher, and it wouldn't have the deep, if you're after that deep dreadnought bassy sound, it wouldn't have that, I don't think. But you could use it. It's kind of like, almost always, well, I shouldn't say almost, you always want a softwood for your top. And that's why mahogany works, because mahogany is the softest hardwood there is. I say that. It's not, because balsa wood's softer, of course. But I'm just saying, as a general rule, when it comes to instrument building, in terms of hardwoods, mahogany is the softest hardwood. And so people use it for the tops because it's so soft. But even those, I still don't think they sound as good as the spruce tops. That's just me, but everybody's got an opinion. You just heard mine. I don't think they sound as good. So I wouldn't use it for a top, but certainly for backs and sides, it's perfect. Let's see here. Trying to read more questions. Can Paduk wood be used for back and sides of a mandolin? Any issues? No, I think it could be. I think you can make a very good mandolin out of the Paduk. I've never tried it, and mainly, people ask me these questions all the time, and mainly it's just because it doesn't sell. I pretty much stick to the standards because that's what sells. You go out on limbs and stuff, and I could make all kinds of cool and unique instruments. That wouldn't be any problem at all. It's just that I tried to stay mainstream because that's what sells. And really that's just the bottom line truth of it. Am I going to write a book about instrument building? Probably not. I don't know. I really doubt it. Yeah, there's a lot of comments there. I don't know. I hope my method here made sense to you a little bit. It's hard to show it on a little screen and everything, but that was the only way I could find to play the double notes. And of course, I found out later, of course, that all he meant was he just throw in a few double notes here and there for effect and for I can't even think of the right words again. But anyway, just for something different and to put a little emphasis. That's what I meant, is to just add a little emphasis here and there to your playing. That's what he meant, but that's not what he said. He said you need to learn how to play double notes. So that's what I learned, is how to play double notes. Now the thing about that is, that gives you a lot more volume. Yeah, see that double note thing really does increase your volume. And so you can play lead in any jam session anywhere. I don't care how many banjos you have, and you can still be heard. Because you're playing twice as many strings as they are. Or actually 4 times, because you got double strings and you're hitting 2 notes, so you're hitting 4 strings. They're only hitting 1 or 2. Anyway, okay, what's the difference between fiddle and a violin? And again, that's just who's holding it. I've answered that question before, and that is the true difference between a fiddle and a violin. It's the person holding it. That is it. That's the difference. There's no other difference. Some of the elite violinists, violin makers and builders, those guys that are in that elite club will tell you there's more differences probably, but there really isn't. There's no difference, physical difference at all. Where do I get my router bits for my Dremel tool? Well, nothing exotic on that. I pretty much just pick them up at the big box stores when I can find them, or order them on eBay. I do a lot of ordering on eBay. I can't get rid of this thing in my chest. I don't know if that's a thing still hanging on from COVID or if it's my normal allergy thing that I get every year. I get it every single year. Although this hasn't hit real hard yet, if it's my allergy thing, it actually hurts worse than the COVID thing did. Yeah, it really does. It's bad. Let's see here. Banjo joke. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I can outplay a banjo with these the way I play. So it's kind of that way. Violin has 4 strings and a fiddle has 4 strings. Yeah, that's an old one too. That's true. That's a lot of people say that, but it really is just the person holding it. And as a matter of fact, and I can't pronounce the fellow's name perfectly. Itzhak Perlman, is the way I say it. He's a violinist, a very highly regarded violinist, and yet he calls his violin a fiddle. So, I mean, it's just who's holding it, whether you call it a fiddle or a violin. Thank you very much there, Tall Red Easel. I appreciate that super chat there. Thank you very kindly. Too early for hot chocolate. Well, this morning I have my root beer. I've been up, you got to understand, I've been up since 3:30. So for me, this is like lunch. He says, I'm more than a month after COVID, still get the cough. Okay, well, it may be. I don't know. It may be related to COVID. But I do get this in my lungs every single fall year. And this year, for whatever reason, thank you, God, I did not get it this year. Had I got that first and got COVID on top of it, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't see me anymore. Because it's bad. It's real bad. Where's the best place to buy a guitar top? I have factory rejected. Martin D28 needs a top. And well, my place to get my top boards is from Old Standard in Fulton, Missouri. Old Standard Wood, John Griffith. You can probably find them on the internet. If you can't find them at all and you just search for them and you can't find them, email me, rosastringworks@gmail.com, and I'll find his information and send you an email. Have you heard from Caleb, and how's he doing? I just saw his videos. He's put out a couple of videos out of his new shop, and which is in the basement of his house, I think, right now. But he looks like he's doing well. I haven't actually talked to him. He's not big on talking. When I told you that before, I'm not kidding. The boy doesn't talk much. I know he does on video, and you would think he would, but he doesn't. He just doesn't say anything. Could you explain right hand technique? Quam Valdez asked that. Right hand technique? Well, it's kind of like this. You know, let me back up and not make fun of that, because it's the truth. And people say this, and it sort of sounds like the trite thing to say, or the in thing to say, is that the right hand is the most important hand. I actually, when I'm training people and giving one-on-one lessons, I always tell them the left hand doesn't matter at all. It's all the right hand. This hand is just decoration. This hand is like pictures on your wall. This hand is your foundation. It's your house. It is your walls. It is your roof. This is your important hand. That's how I explain it. And I try to really, and I believe that. I mean, I really do. Because it's your timing, it's your sound, your volume, it's everything. It's your individual notes. This hand here, all it's doing is pressing down a few strings. That's pretty much all it's doing. Now, I mean, you do some pull-offs, you do some slides. Yeah, I don't mean to make too light of the left hand. It's important, don't get me wrong. But your right hand is where it's at. Explaining the right hand technique, you might be over my head. I mean, I'm not so sure I have a technique. I just know it's the important hand, I mean, I'd like to answer your question, but again, not having quote-unquote formal training, I'm not going to try to blow smoke and make up things that, because I just don't honestly know all of that stuff. And when you call it technique, now you're getting into those fancy words. My technique is just beat the heck out of it. So I would help you, Quab, if I could. But honestly, the right hand is where it's at. You got to have a good right hand. It's everything. It really is. It's your whole sound. Your left hand is, like I said, kind of like decoration. It's icing on the cake. It's nice to have, and you kind of want it and everything. But this hand is everything. You screw this hand up, everybody hears it. You screw this hand up, only the professional musicians hear it when you screw this hand up. You know what I'm saying? 99 people out there in the audience out of 100 didn't hear the left hand screw up, but everybody heard the right hand screw up. I mean, that's the truth. That's how important the right hand is. So that's the best technique I can explain, Quam. I'm sorry. I wish I could explain more. Since your hands are getting worse and worse, are we to expect less and less videos? Well, to some degree, that's probably true. It is a lot to do with the hands, don't get me wrong, but it's just time to slow down too, and that's part of the reason, and that's the main reason you're just going to see less and less videos. But you will still see quite a few. I'll still try to put out at least one a week. If you think about it, I've got getting close to 800 videos out there, so it's not like I'm slacking too much. I will say one thing that has slacked is the subscribers. I'm getting almost no subscribers. Really, back in the spring, we were all excited. We were just growing like crazy. We were getting, a couple thousand a month, and we thought we're going to hit 100,000. And that's why we started talking that up. I mean, like, we haven't grown at all since the spring. It's like it was a couple of months there, we were growing a couple thousand people a month, and then it just went. And Randy, my buddy Randy, knows all about that. How YouTube is fickle, and you can be getting pushed and things are just growing like crazy and going good, and then all of a sudden, nothing. So I don't know what happened there, but we haven't grown at all since the spring. Have I ever used acetone to remove finish from a instrument? I wouldn't say I have. I've used acetone a number of times for miscellaneous things on the instrument, like maybe a spot here or there or something, but not to remove the finish. Typically, when I'm removing a finish on an instrument, I actually use a scraper, and mainly because it's fast, it's quick, it's smooth. There's a lot of advantages to a scraper once you learn how to use a scraper. On the converse side of that, you can tear the heck out of an instrument with a scraper if you don't know what you're doing. So a scraper is a good tool, and it's a fast tool, and it works really good, and you can get into all the nooks and crannies with a scraper. That's why I use a scraper. And the main reason I don't use chemicals is because they can just tear up your plastics. Just eat them up and just do bad things to your plastics. We got a few more minutes here, just a couple more minutes. Have you ever used ebony or walnut for back and sides of a guitar? No, I haven't. It could be done. Walnut would work. Walnut's not my favorite choice, only because it's not that terribly resonant. You know, I like to pick up a board and tap on it and hear it make a real good tone, and I can't get much out of walnut. Ebony is just so rare that, you know, it's hard to come by enough ebony, and I just haven't ever tried it. Let's see. I'm a new subscriber. Well, thank you. Thank you there, Rod Marshall, it looks like. The right hand is the artist, the left hand is the technician, according to David Tharp. Yeah, I'd say there's times when that's true and times when the exact reverse is true. I mean, you know, it's all in how you look at those kinds of things. There's a lot of ways to look at everything, and if you think about it, David. But yeah, I know I get your point. I see your point. A scraper removes all finishes. Yes, it does. You can take off anything with the scraper, where chemicals will only do certain kinds of finishes and like I said, the thing about the chemical thing is what it can do to your other things. It's just not worth the risk to me. I would rather spend a little bit more time and use a scraper. And if you learn how to use a scraper well, you don't really spend much more time. You can do it pretty dang fast. Thank you for the great channel. You're sure welcome, Wayne. Have you ever worked on a real Lloyd Loar mandolin? Many times, yes. I say many times. At least 4 or 5 times, which is quite a few when you think about it, because there's not that many of them out there. But I've worked on 4 or 5 Lloyd Loar mandolins. Truly, and you just take this for what it's worth, truly the very best one I worked on was my uncle's. And I took it apart, as you know, and that's how I build mine. That mandolin was a killer mandolin. It was crazy loud, and I carve all mine to those exact specs. Why are mine so loud? There you go. How do you fix neck twist? Well, that's one of those open questions again. First of all, it's going to depend on that particular instrument and that particular kind of wood, etc. But neck twist is tough to fix. And the reason it's tough to fix, it's just like anything I've told you before, where you have to fix it mechanically. You can't just wish it away, if you will. And so many people try to, steam it, bend it, hold it in position, and that kind of sort of works for a little while. But it will go back to its twisted position, because that's the position it wants to dry in, grow in, live in, etc. It got used to that twisted position, and it's not going to be easy to get it out of there. So the way I fix a twisted position, like a twisted neck or something, is I will actually take the fingerboard off and carve the twist out of it. Or it depends on, every one of them is different. That's one way to fix it, is to carve the twist out of it, out of the top of the neck. The other way to fix it would be to put a filler wedge in there to fill where it's twisted. I did that on a mandolin for my buddy Bruce one time, And it depends on what it is. It depends how it's twisted, what the problem is. But yeah, you got to fix it mechanically, in my opinion. You can't wish it away. You can't go, oh, I think I'll just put some heat on this and twist it. Good luck with that. Just good luck with that. That's all I can tell you. If you don't fix it mechanically, it's going to come back on you. I can tell you that for sure. Ask me how I know that. Will I ship my antler bridges to Sweden? Of course. Yeah, we ship them all over the world. So all you have to do is order them on my website and we'll send them to you. Would I consider starting an online teaching course for the number system? I would be your first customer. I have thought about that, and I would like to do stuff like that. I love to teach. I really, really, really do love to teach. There's nothing that gives me greater pleasure to have 5 or 6, 20, 30. We've had as many as 30 students in a group, and I'll be up in front of the class teaching them, like the Nashville number system or just chords on the guitar or mandolin or whatever. And I love to do that. So I won't rule that out, and that may be something I move into as I move out of, some of the repair work and things. Sorry, guys, I'm choking here. All right, we're about out of time. Let's take maybe these last 2 questions. Bill O'Reilly, I have a violin that the belly glue joint is a little open. Can it be stabilized without taking the top off? Yeah, you can. If you have those violin clamps, let me show them to you here. And I made my own. These are ones I made. I have threaded, this little piece of rod is bent in the shape of a violin top or back, and these little plastic knobs, and I got to get where the camera is, you can see a little groove there. That kind of catches the edge or the edge of the top or the edge of the back, and then you can just tighten it down, and that'll close that joint. And, you want to make sure, I would try to take like the back of an X-Acto knife, use it like a scraper and scrape the crack out. Don't make the crack any bigger. Just scrape the dirt out of the crack. And scrape the old finish and the old glue out of the crack. Then take these clamps and, see if you can close it. Do that dry first and make sure you can get it to close. Then put your glue in there and then clamp it up with these kinds of clamps. I just made these out of a heavy wire and put threads on the ends. Now, if you don't know how to put threads on something, well, you're out of luck. You can buy these kinds of clamps from instrument supply places. There's some violin supply places that I cannot think of their name right now that would have these for sure. You might even be able to get these from StewMac. I don't know. Okay, that's question number 1. Question number 2. Use glass as a scraper. Yes, that's the old school method. Glass was used a lot as a scraper. I don't use glass because I figure I got something as good or better. I like the metal scrapers. I can sharpen them and get them just like I want them, and so I just use that. The glass is good, but you kind of have to break the glass to get it to work, and depends on what the shape of that glass turns out like to use it as a scraper. But it will work. But even that is not, there's advantages and disadvantages to using anything really. And I think the glass has as many disadvantages as it has advantages. So that's why I just stick with what I do. How can I say this in the most caring way? What you put in your body is so important. Eat and only... Okay, well, that's not a question. That's just somebody's opinion there. But, Rod, thank you for your opinion. Thank you all for tuning in today. We got 210 right here, right now. And I think I'm going to call the end of the Shop Talk here, I guess. So I thank you so much for joining me this morning. Hopefully you'll join me next Friday morning, same time, same place.